The next lesson here talks about vertical and adjacent angles with linear pairs. We're on page 3 of the notes packet. 2 new vocab words for today are the words vertical and also the words adjacent. Vertical means that we're talking about opposite angles that are formed by the intersection of 2 lines. So we're looking for this X in our picture. When we have the X in the picture, we're looking for angles that are opposite each other. So for example, 2 and 4 would be opposite each other. We have angle 1 is opposite angle 3. Vertical angles have the relationship that when their measurements are taken, they're actually equal to each other. So we use the format blank equals blank. Adjacent is a really fancy word, just meaning that you have 2 angles that share a common vertex, a common side, and do not overlap. Adjacent makes me think of my neighbors. So when I think about my next door neighbors, we both have houses and we share a property line. So if this is my house right here, this right here is my neighbor's house. We have a fence that goes down between our yard. That's our shared side of our yard, and then here's our street right out here. But we have this point on our property that actually does touch as well, so we have the common vertex. Unfortunately, just because angles are adjacent doesn't necessarily mean that they have any special relationship in terms of their angle measurements. If you look at the picture down here, we're going to do this first example together, and then I'll have you try the railroad one on your own. In the picture, we have 2 crossing roads, intersections. They create that X. Opposite angles are going to be verticals. So angles 1 and angle 3 are vertical angles. The other set of opposites would be 2 and 4. So angle 2 and angle 4. Adjacent ones would just be the next door neighbors, so they share that common side. So for example, 1 and 2 are adjacent. We also then, if you look at 2 shares a side with 3. So angles 2 and angle 3 are adjacent angles. Angles 3 and angle 4 are adjacent. And finally, if you notice, 1 and 4 also share a side. So angle 1 and angle 4. Pause the video, take a minute, and try the railroad one. Down here, we're going to do some practice with vertical angles. To refresh your memory, vertical angles are the ones that are opposite when we see an X in our picture. When they're opposite, their angle measurements are the same. So we have the setup blank equals blank. If you look in this first picture, there's the X setup. These 2 angles are opposite, so they would be called verticals. This means our setup is blank equals blank. So X is equal to 121 degrees. Here again, we see the X setup. They're opposite each other, so they're vertical. Blank equals blank. So X equals 37 degrees. Here, there's some more information. We have to fill in some info on the picture. The measure of angle TKE, that's right here, is 87 degrees. It wants us to find the measure of angle AKS, so we're looking for this one right here. If you notice, they both have the X and they're opposite each other, so they're verticals. Vertical angles relationship blank equals blank. So angle AKS is equal to 87 degrees. If you flip over to page 4, one more new vocab term for today is what we call a linear pair. Line is inside this word, and pair means 2. So we have 2 angles that together form a line. What you need to know is if you remember about a straight angle, which is a line, it adds up, it's 180 degrees. So in this linear pair, when you add their measures, you get 180. So our setup is going to be angle plus angle equals 180. So blank plus blank equals 180. If you look at these 2 angles right here, the 67 and the Z form a straight line. So they're a linear pair. So blank plus blank equals 180. Z plus 67. We can solve our equation here. So we subtract the 67. We get Z equals 113 degrees. If you look on this picture, we have Z again, and then we have 90 degrees here, and I know that because of this box. Notice that together they form a line. So we're going to have blank plus blank equals 180. Z plus 90 equals 180. Subtract your 90 from both sides. Z is equal to 90 degrees. In the last example of the linear pair here, we have y and 44 that create our straight line. Blank plus blank equals 180. Y plus 44 equals 180. Subtract your 44. Y is equal to 136 degrees. Down here at the bottom, this last picture we're going to use to actually demonstrate a lot of the facts that we've learned about today. We're going to be looking for vertical angles, and we're also going to be looking for linear pairs, as well as just in general a set of angles, it might be more than a pair, that are actually going to create a line together. So the first thing that I notice, it looks like there are a lot of X's in this picture. So I'm going to start by shading in this first line, and then I'm also going to shade in this one next to it. So if you notice, my X is now made of the pink and the orange line. I did that because this 30 is filled in by that pink and orange line. Turn your paper a little bit. Do you see the X? So you have the pink and the orange. X, opposite of X. That tells me those two are vertical angles. So this angle here is 30 degrees. If you look again, I'm kind of twisting my paper this way now, I see another X. You see that pink line? Now take a look at this green one. See the X made by the pink and green lines. This is 65 right here. Across from it is right here. Those are also vertical angles. So that's going to be 65 degrees. Now, you've probably noticed just a little bit here that if I divide this in half and I cover up the bottom part of my picture, I actually have a straight line that divides the picture in half right up here. How many degrees are in a straight line? 180. So if I think about this, I take the whole thing as 180, I use up 30, and I use up 65. So I've used up 95 total. So 180 minus 95 is going to give me 85 degrees, which means this missing angle up here is 85 degrees. In the same manner, take your hand, cover up the top half of the picture. Notice that down here across the bottom, I also have a line, but that line is made up of 4 angles now. I know that I've used 65, 60, and 30. So when I add that up, that's 125, 155. A straight line is 180 degrees, and I've used 155, which leaves me with 25 degrees for this missing angle down here.